Back in January, I made a video talking about the various level 1 cheat strats I developed over the years that can lead to an early advantage in your games. Unfortunately, the timing of the upload was a little awkward since it was posted a few days before the entire Summoner's Rip patch changed, which led to a lot of requests from you guys asking for an updated version. And honestly, all the old cheat strats still work. Like, the map changes didn't really affect how players move around all that much, but since there are even more dumb strats I developed over the last few months, here's How to Win Before 2 Minutes Part 2. In the last video, the strat required you to try to get an early ward to go for a steal, and also just to confirm that the enemy jungler was starting blue in the first place. But with the changes to the map, there will be a very high chance that you will get spotted since players either ward the area or just stand there themselves to watch for invades. So the solution is, just skip that entire early part and immediately go to step 2, which is to lead this push at exactly 125 to go for the steal. You want to take this specific path for the invade. I intentionally go into the bush first to check if someone's still watching from there, and believe me, some cycles actually do stand there even after 125, and then path very wide around so I don't get seen by either the right side where the jungler should be or by the turret range. Then you ward over the wall into the bush and time whatever skill shot you have to steal the buff. Level 1 cheat strats in general are all about the information you have, so depending on what you know, you can change things up a bit and update your game plan over time. Like for example, I don't have to really check the bush here since I see everyone on the map from an early ward. Just keep in mind that the strat will obviously only work if the enemy is starting blue, so you run the risk of completely losing your level 2 power bot for no reason since you won't be in lane for a while. But if you do manage to get the steal, then the enemy jungler will be super far behind the early game, which is honestly pretty worth it. If the jungler decides to smite the buff, then you just gotta leave without showing yourself as fast as you can, since you might actually get first blood if you're not careful. After you go for the blue steal, you can decide to either run back to lane or be even more annoying by trying to kill them at the gromp. But if you stay too long, then the enemy laters might come to hell, so just be on the lookout for that. You don't want to be too greedy, so if you think it's warded anywhere or if you see the other laners making moves to try to flank you, then run away immediately. The absolute worst case scenario is if you fail to steal the buff and you get killed on top of that, so it's okay to just accept some losses if you can get out safely. The flash over the wall strat still works, but I started doing a bar specific portal invade since it's way easier to coordinate and doesn't require you to do a summoner spell. Basically, you just spam ping your teammates to run into the dragon pit at the start of the game. Make sure you ping your teammates to go this way through mid instead of through bot, since they might get spotted to go that way. Then after everyone is in position, just portal into the bush and hope that someone's just chilling over the wall. The good thing about portaling into the bush is that even if no one's there, the portal itself doesn't actually show up to the enemies in the area, so you can either continue to invade into the jungle, or try to flank any enemies you see like in this clip, where from the enemy's point of view, we just spawn out of their own side. You'd be surprised how often this works, since people just do not expect this kind of play to happen, so they're usually slow to react most of the time. Remember to ward the bush as you leave, since if you're lucky, you can actually do the exact same play when your portal comes out cooldown and surprise them a second time with your team. I did try this on other parts of the map and into different spots, but the tri-bush bot was the one I had the most success on so far, so the strat's probably best used when you're on red side. There's two different variations to this strat, both requiring teleport. For the first variation, you want to choose a champion that can do a good amount of damage in a short period of time and sprint top immediately. The plan is to just camp in the bush and wait until the enemy top laner walks up for farm or into the bush, then do as much damage as you can before teleporting back to your own lane. Ideally you kill them, but just getting them low will make the rest of their laning phase an absolute nightmare, especially if they have to teleport back to non-miss EXP or CS. Like with the blue buff steal, you're going to be losing prowl on whatever lane you come from, and you'll obviously be stuck with teleport the rest of the game instead of the spell you might usually go, so this is only good if you know your top laner has a good chance of being able to snowball the lead. Just make sure to communicate to your teammates what you're doing so it doesn't look like you're playing lead for the first time or trolling. I usually only use this strat when I'm in a duo or a pre-main group, since it is pretty end going teleport on a role like support that usually needs heal or ignite for the lane. It's great if you have some form of CC on either you or your top laner, and obviously this will work better against champions that are melee and don't have some kind of dash or movement spell level 1. Tell your top laner to just lane regularly in the open and not camp the bush with you, since there's a high chance the enemy just won't walk up and might waste more time. You want to start attacking as soon as you can, because the longer you stay, the more EXP you'll be leeching off your top laner, so it might actually greet them in the long run, so don't be greedy waiting for the best opportunity and just go in as soon as they get into range. The second variation to this strat is honestly very dumb because it requires both your team and the enemy team to do a very specific early game movement, but because of pro play or something, I've been seeing this happen in a lot of my games recently, where every player just instantly boosts into the bushes in either top or bot, and after getting vision they either recall, continue invading to the jungle, back out completely after seeing each other ward, or just straight up PS the fight immediately if someone CC lands like in this clip. If this kind of fight happened just once or twice, I wouldn't have really cared, but because I've been seeing at least some form of early vision attempt almost every game for a while by at least the support or the ADC, I started to theorycraft ways to get vision of these bushes as soon as possible. After testing things like using Ghost, Flash, Dash or Blink abilities, and pretty much everything else to try to get early vision of the area without the enemy seeing that it's warded, I eventually somehow came to the conclusion that just going TP and using it as soon as the barrier is dropped at 50 seconds into the game was the best way to do this strat, because the entire point of this play is to get early vision of the bush to allow your teammates to walk up and get ready to fight, while also not letting the enemy know that you're also there, since more often than not, if both sides see each other warding, they'll just back off and then nothing happens, which is boring. After you ward the farthest bush, if you see someone walking up, then you can go into the alcove for the better position before they see you, but if none of the enemy comes, then you can proceed to either camp the bush for a bit with your team, or continue with an invade towards the jungle. Just remember to be patient and move with your team, so that you don't have someone recalling early or trying to go somewhere else by themselves and getting seen. The two teleport strats work on both sides since the bushes in the lane are symmetrical. Just keep in mind that this would look really dumb if it doesn't work, since you basically just waste a summoner spell to maybe get a cheese kill, but the success rate in both my ranked and normal games was unfortunately high enough to warrant to mention in the video. If you're playing bot side and don't want a fancy start to a game in League of Legends, then please ward this push if you're on blue side, this push if you're on red side, then immediately leave and go do something else. Like, you can just AFK at your turret and go to the bathroom until minions spawn, since you did your part getting vision. The amount of times I've seen someone get caught out because he didn't ward here immediately, or just decided to do a 10 second stay for whatever reason, is absolutely insane. Like, I feel like if there was a heat graph of every early first blood recorded, then these spots would definitely be high up there and how often this happens. Which is weird, because the only way to die is if the enemy somehow gets to the bush first before you do, which geographically doesn't make any sense since, you know, the spot is always closer to you than it is to them. The reason why I always tell people to ward there instead of standing there themselves is because even if they're at the perfect position in the bush to see as much as they can, the enemy can still play on the fog of war and still catch you out even if you have the fastest reaction time, and also because you might play against a psycho like me that portals into you with the entire team. If the point of the play is to get vision of the area early on, then I would much rather my ward potentially die from getting scanned than myself. You can also watch somewhere else after warding or recall and get scanned right away like I usually do, instead of standing around the bush with a trinket unused the entire time. Just make sure to not be one of those people that ward a bush then proceed to continue standing inside it, which completely goes against the entire reason why you ward there in the first place. The best thing that can happen is if you get an early ward that the enemy doesn't scan and just walks past as they try to invade your jungle, which gives your team ample enough time to get into position to punish them for just walking in without any information. Like in this clip, it's kind of funny how both teams did the exact same thing, but the one thing different was that I warded an entrance before heading over while the enemy didn't, which was just enough time for us to comfortably get ready for an easy first blood. If your team decides to invade early on, always make sure that someone has a scanner so you at least know that you got spotted out, instead of walking to 5 enemies camping in the bush. There are a lot of different ways you can go about doing level 1 strats, but it all comes down to the information you have and how you think the enemy sees you. Even if the map changes over time, as long as you have the fundamentals down on how vision works and where people are likely to stand at the start of a game, you can develop your own ways on getting early advantages, which can sometimes win you the game right away. Like if you compare this video with the last one, the ideas are exactly the same. Give your opponent the least amount of information possible while taking advantage of the information you have. To end off the video, here are some clips of just random level 1 fights that happen in my games and how crazy some of them can end up, which makes me want to keep testing out even more strats.